So. That's all. It's approved.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Patty Hamilton, and I'm a member of the Bangor Water District Board of Trustees, stepping in for Board Chair Whalen, who cannot attend tonight. As facilitator, I'll be presiding over today's public hearing. My first duty is to officially convene tonight's hearing at 5:30. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to provide information concerning the proposed rate increase for customers of Bangor Water, and to allow customers and the public advocate, if present, to testify and ask questions. This hearing is to be held pursuant to 35A MRS Section 6104 and Chapter 120, Section 7B3 of the Maine Public Utility Commission's regulation. The reason for the proposed rate increase is to increase our capital improvement fund, address inflationary impacts on materials and labor, and to maintain a quality workforce in a competitive labor market. This will be explained in more detail by the district staff. The Bangor Water District is proposing an increase in water rates to become effective April 1st of 2026. The existing rates have been in effect since April 1st of 2025. The proposed rates will be implemented by an across-the-board change in rates for all customer classes, and the rates for each customer class will be increased by 10.5%. The average residential customer using approximately 12,700 gallons per quarter, or 1,700 cubic feet, will experience an increase of $11.98 per quarter. The revenues from public fire protection will increase 10.5%. Charges for sprinkler systems and private hydrants will increase by 10.5%. In attendance this evening are members of the staff of the district and its trustees, as well as its counsel for this rate proceeding. Customers of Bangor Water have the right to a fair and open hearing this evening, and have the right to further proceedings before the Maine Public Utilities Commission, as well as assistance from the public advocate. Copies of all materials supporting the proposed rate change were filed with the Commission and the public advocate on January 20th of 2026, and have been on file at the district's business office since that date for inspection by district customers. Bangor Water will promptly provide any readily available relevant additional material or information requested by a customer, the Commission, or the public advocate. After receiving comments and questions from you at tonight's hearing, the district will consider those comments, and within the next 30 days, but no sooner than 10 days after this public hearing, will file a formal rate schedule with the Maine Public Utilities Commission. The rate schedule will specify an effective date for the rate change, which will be at least 1 month, but not more than 9 months from the date the rates are filed with the Commission. The formal rate filing by the district may be reviewed by the Public Utilities Commission in accordance with 35A MRS 6104. Petitions by district customers demanding a review of the rate changes by the Commission must be filed in accordance with 6104 paragraph 7, must bear the signatures and printed names and addresses of the petition signers, and must include at least 1,000 customers of Bangor Water, and be submitted to Bangor Water and the Public Utilities Commission within 30 days of the public hearing. Upon request, the district will provide customers with petition forms that include spaces for signatures and the printed names and addresses of the signers. Upon receipt of customer petitions in accordance with Section 6104, paragraph 7, the Commission may suspend, investigate, review, and change the proposed rates. As of tonight's hearing, however, the Maine Public Utilities Commission has made no determination and has taken no position concerning the proposed rate increase. After the district has presented information concerning the proposed rate changes, I will open the public hearing for statements and questions from members of the public present at tonight's hearing. Persons wishing to make statements or ask questions will approach the podium and state their name and address. I would also request that you fill your name in and address on the sheet located at the public podium. We would like to limit statements and questions by any one individual to 5 minutes in order to provide the opportunity for all to speak or ask questions. I would ask that we allow everyone to speak once before anyone approaches the podium a second time. I will take this moment to indicate the district received 2 electronic comments, which will be entered into the public record. Any questions should be directed through me as facilitator this evening. If appropriate, I may redirect the questions to an individual who may better answer the question. Before proceeding, I would like to introduce members of the Board of Trustees, legal counsel, who are present here this evening. For trustees today, myself, Patty Hamilton, Samuel Morse, Ralph Voss, and Frank Bragg, and electronically we have Lee Chick. And legal counsel, we have Andy Hamilton from Katahdin Law. With that introduction, I will turn the floor over to the district's general manager, Chuck Harrison, who will introduce the members of the district staff who are present and who will present information on the proposed changes.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Chuck Harrison, the general manager. Also with us here is Holly Silva, the director of finance for Bangor Water. So this presentation, I don't know where she went, will be in two parts. Let me see if I can't get. Oh, there we go. She got it. It will be in two parts. One will be about the rate case, and the second aspect is kind of a 2025 year in review. So I've got two screens. We've got to kind of go back and forth here, but the first slide here is why is a water rate adjustment necessary, and a lot of that has to do with additional costs that we are having to absorb through energy costs, through the cost of chemicals going up. As we all know, IT has been a very big issue for water around the world. People getting hacked, water districts getting hacked. We're having to spend quite a bit more money recently on IT to make sure we're secure so that somebody can't get in and turn off a pump. So IT is a big driver. And along with just our health insurance going up. And last but not least, we have a very old system. And what we're trying to do is invest in replace of that very infrastructure while maintaining the quality water that we give to the customers. And so I want to kind of go back and see how this is going to affect you as the customers and get down to kind of the dollars and cents of what that looks like. So as we can see, well, you can't really see, our minimum bill, which roughly makes up about 70% of our customers, will increase $2.28 a month, or $6.84 per quarter. For an additional cost, if we do the math, as you can see, if you're a math person, the numbers don't quite add up because we had a penny in their difference, but that general increase goes to $71.95 per month. And that's for roughly 70% of population of our customers per quarter. And then when we start breaking that out, I want to see if I can move this because you can't see the. So if we break that out as to what we actually sell the water for, you go to a big box store, and you can buy a gallon of water for roughly $1.26. Sometimes you can buy the little bottles of water for $1.16. When we sell that same gallon of water to our customers for 0.0107 cents per gallon at that new rate. So for the minimum bill customer, that equals 80 cents a day for that 75 gallons of water they consume per day. And if you bought that same 75 gallons of water at the store at $1.26, you'd be spending $94.50 a day, where the district is charging you 80 cents for that same amount of water. So as we said, it's a flat rate across all of our categories. So public fire, these are the amount of hydrants that we have within the district that we have public fire going towards. And here's a breakdown of what that looks like, and there's some numbers to really pay attention to. When we did the budget, we based our budget off of 2024 pumping numbers, because as we all know, 2025 was a very dry year. So we based everything off of a less pumpage so that we actually have real numbers. As we can see, we'll break it down a little bit more. But one thing to note is that the main PUC allows us to charge up to 30% for public fire protection. As you can see at that bottom right number, it's 14.7%. So we're not even half of what the PUC says we are allowed to charge. And how that breaks down, the increase for Bangor for the annual charges goes up to $142,000, up by $142,213. So an increase per quarter of $35,554. So with this rate increase, our total revenue required to do all the things that we are trying to do is $11,416,000 and change, which will need an additional $1,083,975 to cover the gap that we need to get to that total revenue required for 2026. And as we said earlier, if approved by the main PUC, the rates will go into effect on April 1st. And I would like to note that we did have letters go out that our third-party printer, when they formatted the letter, it said April 1st on the letter. We sent it to them and their software crammed it together somehow and put it as April 15th. But the proposal is April 1st for the rate increase. And this rate increase is crucial for our infrastructure. Our rates are how we fund our bond principal payments and interest payments, and it also funds our capital projects, and as well as our capital reserve account, which is all set by the PUC of how much we can have in the capital reserve. And that capital reserve is used to fund those major projects that we try to do. And one example of that here is the Cumberland Street project, which we are going to team up with the city, and we're going to do all of the utilities in that area. So it's one dig, one inconvenience for all the customers on Cumberland Street. And it also gets the oldest water lines in the district at 128 years out of service. So by being able to have more of a capital reserve account, we can do more projects like that we don't have to go out for bonds for, and we can just do them as part of our SIA program, which tells us which streets we can associate to the capital reserve projects. We also have the project of Nelson and Birch Street designed, ready to go. We went out for state revolving funds for that project. We're waiting on the federal budget to get squared away. Hopefully they do. And then that is another project that we will get as a capital project. So that was kind of it on the rate case. We'll take questions here in a minute, but I want to take a few minutes and go over a few slides of what 2025 looked like for us. As everybody knows, we've had a ton of main breaks. Part of that was the dryness. Part of it is that it was so cold. And another part is that we installed a new tank, which made hydraulics shift a bit. So some of those were just bound to happen as the cold and age gets to the pipes. They tend to break. So we did have 73 main breaks last year alone, which was a
Normally.
abnormally high water break season for us. But that did allow us to utilize our billing system a little bit more, where we can notify customers a little quicker and easier as long as we have their information in the billing system to just pick one Main Street to 30 Main Street, and then a robocall goes out. It lets the customers know we have an issue. We've gotten very good about putting that on Facebook and trying to let everybody know that, hey, we've got an issue, we're dealing with it, we're trying to get it resolved. And we also replaced 19 valves this past year. So some of those valves were designed by areas where we don't have good areas to shut down. So when we would have a main break, we'd have to have a bigger area that we shut down. So we shrunk that down by replacing valves. We also replaced 17 hydrants this year. 187 valve boxes were renewed. These are the valves that are in the street. So we go out and make sure that we can actually get on those valves. And if we can't, then we go and we hydro excavate around the valve box and we replace those. So 187 of those. Service boxes, we replaced 325 service boxes, and that's the box outside of a customer's home that allows us to get down and shut water off should you need to do some plumbing in your house, if maybe your internal valve doesn't work. So we replaced 325 of those. And probably one of the biggest is this is the new EIA tank. And it was financed out of the capital, and it adds about $600,000 to our annual expense, of which basically 6% of this new rate increase covers the new BIA tank. And here's the final project of that tank as it sits right now. So in summary, we make plans and then we try to invest the money that we have, that we understand comes from our consumers smartly, to provide the essential service of water to our customers, to make sure that if there is a fire, that the fire hydrant works, that they can put the fire out with minimal damage to the homes. We just try to focus on what's the highest priority. Then we use resources like capital improvement plans to help us get the priorities listed and published to all of our customers. And I will leave this slide up as has my contact information. If you want to write it down, take a picture of it. If you have any questions, definitely give us a call. I'll turn it back over to Patty.
So now the time for anyone wanting to address the board to come to the podium. And as I said, if you would, if there's a fair number of you, if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes, that would be great. Very helpful. State your name, please, and your address.
The name's John Barron. What do you think, Road Bangor? Excuse me, I've had 2 strokes, so I stutter. Back in 1985, moved in the house. In 1990, I had to install water filters in the house. It's supposed to look like this. It's new. These last 2 years, 2 filters last 1 year. It's very the water is. Expect a rate increase. Every time you had a rate increase, we'll clean the water up. Still dirty. Junk in the water. How come? I also went during the pandemic. I went to the water district there, and the gasket for the system. This is the normal size. When I took it out, it was this size. Swallowed up that much. And the girl that was there blew me off. Said, it's got to be something wrong with your stuff. It's chemicals in the water. What's going on? Every rate increase is going to cure this problem. It hasn't been done since 1990. I poured a glass of water back then, and it was dirt in the water. I thought it was in my house. My house was the last one of schoolhouse in Bangor. That's what it is. So long it's been there. It's all about my pipes. The water.
So John, you spoke very clearly. What is your address again, sir?
118 Griffin Road. 118 Griffin Road.
118.
The system is set up like this, parallel, so there's two of these filters, they set up, so neither one, if one of them plugs up, it'll go switch the other one automatically. I designed the system myself. Just wanting to watch rate increases, still have dirty water.
Flood pond, very pristine water. We don't add, yes,
So so do you have you ever called us about any dirty water?
Way back long.
Okay.
Before I put these in back in 1990, it just got blown off.
Well, I'm sorry that happened. What I would encourage you to do is if you see that you have some dirty water. call us.
Here, this is it.
Right, and what it might be is it could be when we're flushing the system, we do that twice a year. That if we are flushing the system and you have your water that's using it at that specific time, you're gonna pull in some of that dirty water. Filters are designed to filter out anything that's in there. We don't filter the water, we treat the water. Meets EPA standards. But what you're seeing is probably natural. It's what's in the water that's going to turn your filter.
Still should be some sort of filter that floods bond, something. Get rid of some of the dirt in the water. Should be something there.
And maybe what you're seeing is some organics that build up because it sits in a filter. You know, it sits overnight and it just accumulates on the filter. That's what they're designed to do. Is to,
That would, it's gotta be in the water in order to come in here, get here.
You can check in with him, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It has to be in the water.
Yeah. So your name and address is on
Right
there.
there.
You've got
First one on the
contact
list.
information.
First one on the list.
All right,
If you read my handwriting.
all right.
Also, there's a restaurant on Main Street. Does it still use city water for cooling? For air conditioning? The Thai restaurant?
I would have to.
Right next to the old, Shriners building that burned.
I would have to check on
They
it.
use the city water to run the air conditioning system. That's crazy. The water just goes in, goes out the drain. It should be shut right off.
We'll be, and that's on, you know, the address?
Right on Main Street, no, not exactly.
What's the restaurant?
I think Thai restaurant, I think, Thai restaurant. Wait.
Pass this along. One each, please, or keep them for later.
There you go. No worries.
My name is Scott Hardy, and I'm a resident of Bangor. I live at 720 Kenduskeag Avenue here in town. And I'm here today, first of all, I thought the PUC was going to be here, some representative of the PUC, but none of you are, correct? Okay,
No, they have the right to be here, and the public advocate sometimes is asked to attend by customers, but I agree with you. I don't see anybody from the public advocate's office or the
I'll
PUC.
reach out to them and ask them with disgust why they're not here. So I've kind of addressed this to the PUC, which is not here, but I'll address this to you too. I'm here today to urge this commission I was talking about, but I'll talk this to the board, to closely scrutinize the Bangor Water District's request for 10.5% rate increase. We all understand the necessity of maintaining aging infrastructure, some of which we know dates back to 1898. We must also look at the reality of the total utility bill facing Bangor families. We do not pay our bills in silos. We pay them from a single shrinking household budget. Over the last 6 years, Mainers have been hit by a relentless wave of utility increases. Since 2020, our electricity rates have soared to 60% to 70%, nearly tripling. Natural gas and heating oil have seen massive increases of 50 to 60%. Water has risen over 30% in the last 6 years. I believe you had a 16.9% increase a few years ago, as well as a 13 point something percent a couple of years after, and then a small increase in 24 perhaps, or 25. So it's somewhere around that 30%. Sewer rates often rise in tandem with water. And that we can take up with the city, creating a double hit for every gallon used. The Bangor Water District's proposal to raise the minimum quarterly bill by nearly $7 might seem small to a utility, but when added to the hundreds of extra dollars we are now paying annually for heat and power, it becomes the breaking point for many on fixed incomes. In 2024, data showed that nearly 1/4 of Mainers, this is the only data I could get, so it's Mainers in this particular thing, were unable to pay at least one utility bill. If you approve this this was addressed to the PUC. If you approve this 10.5% increase on the heels of last year's 1.5% adjustment, you are essentially asking the 70% of Bangor customers who are already stick to the minimum usage to choose between water and other essentials like food and medicine. I asked the commission or the board here today, at what point does maintaining the system override the affordability of life-sustaining resources that the system provides? I urge you to require the district to find further operational efficiencies or to phase this increase more gradually to protect the most vulnerable citizens of Bangor. Rate shock is certainly, this is certainly rate shock when you talk in percentages. It's a lot of money for people that have not, people on fixed incomes haven't seen anywhere near this percent. Over the last 6 years, wages in Bangor have increased only 22%. And we were looking at these astronomical things that are happening to all of us. You live in the same world I live. Now, I know not one of you is unable to pay your water bill. I'm able to pay my water bill. That's never a question, but there's so many out here. My neighbor across the street, we had to build him steps for his front of his house because he's 90 something and his wife is 90 something. They live on Social Security, which hasn't increased at all. And you're asking the vast citizens of Bangor, I think the average is $58,000 a year. And the whole state is 70-something thousand. So we live at 20-something thousand less than the rest, than probably Southern Maine. We're probably looking at Southern Maine when they have this, because that's where the vast majority of the population is. And infrastructure funding, while infrastructure maintenance, the 73 breaks that you had last year, is vital. The burden of these legacy costs should be balanced with affordability mandates under Maine law. A just and reasonable rate must not only support the utilities operations, but must also be a rate the community can actually afford to pay without sacrificing other essentials. And I think that's important for us to think about. I don't know if the board actually goes out for grants, looks at grant funding to get some of this done, so it's not on the burden of the rest of us here that are forced to pay these bills. Have I used up my 5 minutes?
Do you have the information to the PUC?
I will get it if you can give it to me.
Yeah, it's freely available on the website.
Okay.
You can contact. Yep.
Said this, my vote for raising the rate is absolutely not.
Well,
Oh,
so,
that's great.
no talking. Because I listen to. Yeah. I'm Tourette. I started being with me. Pardon. Sit. Stay. Hi, my name is Carol Cutting. I live on Eaton Place. I paid water bills at my house where I've owned for 27 years. That's got 108 bills. Sure. And I need to preface this by saying that much of what I'm talking about happened before general manager took over his watch. But because it's so complicated, I feel I need to bring this up. I oppose the water increase of 10% for 2 reasons. Not that it's not needed, because this infrastructure is ancient. It's not that living on a fixed income with a family makes it difficult too. But because I think the water department has not been fiscally managed well over the years, before his watch particularly. Yeah, and because I also have to invest in into a water purification system. It's not a filtration, but a purification, because there's a cancer cluster on my street. With the water main was replaced in 1999. And when it was replaced, it was put under 130-year-old city sewer laterals. They just put it under the laterals. And it was illegally when it was installed against city codes. It was against city codes now. It's against CDC codes. It's against state regulations. The reason for that is that sewage can leak into even pressurized water mains. The senior environmental hydrologist of the state of Maine has told me this. The University of Maine specialist in soil and science is saying this. So basically, we have water mains that are under sewer laterals where it can leak in. It's a hazard, a health that you work in public health nursing. It is a health hazard. People say that it's a pressurized main, but when the pressure equalizes at certain times, it can get in. And at certain times means you can't test because you don't know when those certain times are. I had, and this water main serves 5 houses on my road. It's, again, the sewers that it's under 130 years old. They're sewer laterals, so the city won't take any responsibility for them. So it's complicated. This water main serves 5 houses on my street. Of these 5 houses, 3 houses have had a family member develop atypical young age cancer. 1 person has died, 1 person recovered with a permanent injury, and 1 is not doing well, terminal. Okay, so 5 houses with an illegal water main underneath it has a cancer cluster. Can't directly contribute at this point, but it's scary. And so therefore, I have to also pay for a water filtration system because purification system, because there was a 9-year-old in my house a couple days ago and asked for a drink of water. I was actually afraid to give the child it. I'm 62. I don't want to die yet, but I don't want to have somebody else's kid on my hand. I brought this issue to the water department years ago, his predecessor. And since 2021 to the city officials, recently state health officials only have the codes dismissed or danced around. The code didn't exist then, this. It did. I looked it up. The codes are designed to protect health. And even now the city manager isn't even responding to me. She won't return my calls or whatever. I should not have to pay for an increase for water that is potentially dangerous and cancer causing on my street. So the water department should have corrected, and this is where I'm saying not fiscally managed well. The water department should have corrected this issue and bought repairs that impact human health instead of spending money on equipment such as smart meters that were supposed to save us money. They're nice, but when you've got a problem like this, it would have been cost effective to make the water safe, i.e. bring the water main to bring the water main up to codes, to bring the water main up to codes in 2023 when the city decided to suddenly dig up the entire road and reconstruct it. But they chose not to. At this time, city solicitor David Sawowski chose to ignore the lawyer that I had hired ignore my lawyer's letters and phone calls for 6 weeks, simply reconstructed the road. No water main, just spent surely over $100,000. So now during that time, the 3rd resident was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Focusing primarily on keeping drinking water safe is the right thing to do. And it's also cost effective in preventing potential litigations or lawsuits. I think the PUC needs to look into how funding was spent in the past and the state regulators that adhered to. I mean, Patty used to work in public health. I mean, this is not okay. This is against codes. We're talking like, you prove those cancers were contributed by the water, which we have not yet. I would think that they would have massively replaced that water main in 2023 instead of ignoring my lawyer. I mean, what up? Anyways, thank you for listening. Anybody have questions or anything?
No, we had
a conversation and he said, sounds a decent guy. He's inherited this mess. Thank you. Yeah.
Anyone else?
My name is Wayne Mellor. I live at 103 Essex Street. I have many questions in different areas. I'm interested in the hydrants. Who maintains the hydrants?
We do.
In all areas, like in Herman and Hamden?
Correct.
Okay.
It's a private hydrant, so there are private hydrants pretty much everywhere. So we don't maintain.
Okay. Do you do any cooperative planning with the city engineering department?
As far as when,
How far in advance do you do your, I mean, do you have a replacement schedule for equipment and for water lines and hydrants and whatever throughout the city?
yes,
What's the range of it? Is it a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 20-year plan?
30.
It's a 30-year plan?
Usually every capital improvement plan stretches out 30 years.
Okay, so you should have a pretty good handle on what you need and when you need it. Correct? So why do we have so many jumps all the time? It seems to me you should be planning out your expenses as to match your income, not just increasing your income to match your expenses.
Well, some of it might not be where the city has a project like the Cumberland. I don't know if the city was saying we need to do Cumberland as important as the water. So if you guys don't plan to do something, as far as the city doesn't plan to do something, then it's more cost effective for all of the residents if we jump in like on the Cumberland project to get that done. Some of the areas that we deal with, we have more breaks in those areas, so they get up on the hierarchy scale of getting fixed. So we're not out there fixing water main breaks, we're replacing the pipe where we have known areas where water mains
So
breaking.
do I understand what you're saying is that if the city is planning a project, it's obviously cost effective for you to go with them. But the city plans their projects years ahead, so I assume you are coordinating this years ahead because you inferred that you jumped to emergency projects as opposed to doing the projected project. And I'm just concerned about that.
No, we're not jumping from one to the other. If there's a project that we can team up with the city or Maine DOT or anybody else that's doing a project, then we will do that. And that's generally when we're looking for the state revolving funds, which is a grant from the state to do those projects.
Agreed. Now, how much do you have in the capital reserve fund?
It's fully funded. Holly, do you have that number in your head?
And what do you use that for?
Those are for the projects like the Cumberland project. That is completely based off of capital funds.
What about the water tower project?
That was we got bonds for that project.
So you didn't plan ahead for that project?
We did, but.
Well, then if you planned ahead, shouldn't there have been something in the reserve fund for it?
Some, yes, but the PUC sets the amount of money we can have in the capital reserve fund. We can't, it's
Are
not,
you at the maximum?
yes,
You are at the
I
maximum.
believe so.
Well, I don't believe so. Are we at the maximum? That's confusing. You put the maximum in you can put in?
They don't say what the maximum is gonna actually now, and say what the maximum is in here. The limit of that, don't.
They tell you how much, not how much you have in the account, but how much you have to put into the account. Okay. Well, it seems to me that we don't do well at planning. I mean, you've known this water tower was coming up, so that we're getting hit with a rate increase because of the water tower and your funding of it. Is that correct?
No, I mean, and I can't speak of that. I was not here. You know, I've been here.
Well, no, but you know what the bond cost was now and you understand what the rates are. So how did the board plan? It was always planned to have a rate increase to cover the cost of the bonding for the water tower.
Yes.
Is that being fair to the user? I mean, you're not looking at, it seems to me that you should have been reserving this money long before you needed the tower. So when it came time to build the tower, you had money in the reserve to pay for a portion of it instead of bonding. Bonding is not always the answer. That's committing the next generation to payments, where funding it by reserve is the group that's already here is paying for it.
Mr. Mallor, sir.
Yes.
And I've been a water utility attorney for decades. And there's three mechanisms that the general manager said were used as part of capital replacements and improvements. One is the capital improvement fund, which the PUC caps on an annual basis. The second is through rates, and the third is through bonds. It is not the case that it's irresponsible for a water utility to use bonds. It's not the first choice, but it may be a necessary choice. The other question you asked is why the incremental rate increases. I have represented water utilities that have generated crowds 100 times the size of this crowd tonight that waited 10 years to increase their rates. That's what causes rate shocks. This incremental adjustment, and I think Mr. Party's sheet shows quite well, the water district rate increase is the lowest on the sheet. And so I would just urge caution in the conclusion that the district is doing anything but the responsible thing with the ratepayers' funds. We're a consumer-owned water utility. We have responsibility to the consumers, and we're regulated by the PC as a consumer-owned water utility. So I'd urge caution and drawing aspersions about the board and the general manager not properly using funds of the customers properly. We are regulated. We have to make the case every time we want rates to cover our revenue requirement, and the revenue requirement is watched like a hawk by the Public Utilities Commission. And again, the lowest rates on this sheet that Mr. Party passed out are the Bangor Water District rate.
So can I infer from that you think a 10% rate is appropriate on a continuing basis? Or how often do you think you should have a 10% increase? Sounds like you think it's okay to ask for it every year.
30 more,
Excuse me?
30 more seconds. Time.
Yeah, fine. I believe you took part of my time.
Sure. Take more time if you need
No,
to.
no, that's fine. I mean, I understand what you want, and I just can't see that you're appropriately providing the monies other than taking them from the current users as opposed to taking it a little at a time over the past few years. And bonding is not the answer.
Right, but
Bonding commits the next generation and the next generation.
I got the generational point that you made very well, Mr. Mallor. And that's why this water utility, in my opinion, is one of the more responsible water utilities in the state, because they don't wait until they're in extremis and then go for the largest increase possible. They're trying to do it on a graduated incremental basis because everybody acknowledges cost of living, cost of equipment, cost of capital facilities is going up.
I agree, but I don't think 10% can be handled by,
Yeah, we need to respect your opinion.
well, fine, thank you.
My name is Dave Rogers, I'm from 11 Buckner Avenue. Appreciate clean water. I just have a question. Did I understand, he brought up bonds. Did I understand that you're not going to apply for a bond this year? Is that what you said at the beginning of the meeting?
We don't have a project for a bond.
Okay. Good. And one other question. Do we donate time and equipment to provide water lines to some apartment buildings that are being built? Or, I mean, new buildings that are being built? Is anything free being given to them?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
It shouldn't be.
All right, great. No bonds, that sounds good. Thank you.
Anyone else?
No one online.
I went online, okay. So I don't know if any of the trustees would like to make any statements relative to.
Frank Bragg, the thing that impressed me about the water district is that we've got 200 miles of water main under the streets of Bangor. And 42 miles of that 200 miles is over 100 years old. No wonder we're seeing water brains break. And this capital improvement account is to hopefully systematically replace those 100-year-old water mains. It costs about $2 million per mile to replace a water main. So you do the math, 42 miles, 100-year-old, 42 miles of the water mains are 100 years old. At $2 million a mile, that's $84 million. So that's our long range we're looking at for our anticipated expenses. So we have to plan for it. Thank you.
Raising his hand, so I think we're good. So I think that concludes the hearing, and I'd like to thank everyone for their comments and for coming today and for participating in the hearing. We really appreciate it, and we'll take everything, we've got everything noted.
Thank you.